Hi, I'm Susan Im of ImLaw. I have practiced exclusively immigration law for over 15 years. Today's topic is employment-based immigration, or obtaining your green card through employment. Most employment-based green card categories require an employer to sponsor the foreign national. Decades ago, Congress created 5 different categories through which a foreign national may obtain green card status and established numerical limits in each category, meaning only a certain number of foreign nationals and their dependents can obtain green card status through each category per fiscal year. In addition to the numerical limits, Congress created country quotas for those born in China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. And these country quotas further limit how many of the available green cards can be obtained through each employment-based category. And it doesn't even matter if a foreign national born in one of those 4 countries has obtained citizenship in a different country that's not subject to the country quota. They're still, in general, going to be charged with the country quotas because of where they were born. These numerical limits and country quotas have resulted in multiple-year backlogs for our highly skilled professionals to obtain green card status. And that's often a very big surprise to employers and foreign nationals who are new to this process. In addition, the challenge for foreign nationals is that they have to maintain their underlying temporary visa status if they are in the United States while this process is taking place, while waiting out these multiple-year backlogs. There are 5 different categories through which a foreign national may immigrate or become a permanent resident of the United States through employment, and they are EB-1 through EB-5. EB-1, I like to refer to as our rock stars. This category includes our extraordinary ability aliens, and I detest the term alien because the last time I checked, my clients were human beings like you and me, but it is a term that is used throughout the Immigration and Nationality Act. But extraordinary ability aliens, those that have risen to the top 5% of their field or have sustained national or international acclaim. EB-1 also includes our outstanding professors and researchers that have international acclaim in their field, as well as our multinational transferred managers and executives. This applies in the context where you have a manager or executive working for at least 1 out of the preceding 3 years for a corporately related entity of the U.S. employer. Congress has allocated 40,000 green cards to the EB-1 category, and thus far, we have not experienced any backlogs in the EB-1 category, even for nationals born in one of the 4 countries discussed earlier. The EB-2 category, this comprises our professionals of exceptional ability, our advanced degree professionals, those that possess a master's degree or higher, as well as persons who are working in the national interest. 40,000 green cards allocated by Congress to this category as well. EB-3 category. The EB-3 category by far is the most common and most popular category because it comprises the vast majority of our foreign national workers. EB-3 includes our professional workers, where the position requires a bachelor's degree but less than 5 years of experience. It includes our Schedule A registered nurses and physical therapists. It includes our skilled workers, positions that require a minimum of 2 years of experience or more to perform. And it also includes our unskilled workers. Unfortunately, Congress allocated only 40,000 green cards for this category, which includes not only the foreign national principal alien, but also their dependents. So you can see how the numbers would get used up very, very quickly, resulting in multiple-year backlogs, particularly in the EB-3 category. EB-4, this is for our special immigrant workers. The most common categories here are the Victims Under the Violence Against Women Act, as well as our permanent religious workers for our religious organizations in the United States. Congress allocated 10,000 green cards to this category. And finally, the EB-5 category are very fortunate immigrant investors who have $1 million or more to invest in a new or existing enterprise, and through that investment create at least 10 full-time jobs. There is a lesser $500,000 investment requirement for certain individuals. I'd like to cover now the process through which the majority of foreign national workers must undergo in order to obtain green card status. And remember, we talked about the EB3 category being the most common category for our professionals and skilled workers and unskilled workers to fall. The first stage of that green card process is known as PERM labor certification. And PERM labor certification is a process with the Department of Labor through which the employer must prove through active recruitment that there are no qualified U.S. workers available and willing to do the job. Proving that there are no qualified and able workers to do the job can be very challenging, especially in a downturned economy. So again, the PERM labor certification process, unlike the H-1B work visa, actually requires employers to test the job market. And in this process, the employers are also required to make a good faith attestation that they will pay 100% of the prevailing wage as determined by the Department of Labor. And this is an official prevailing wage determination as issued by the Department of Labor. The good news is the employers don't have to pay that 100% prevailing wage figure at the time they file the PERM application or even while it's pending. They must only attest that they will pay this 100% prevailing wage figure at the time the foreign national is approved for green card status, which, remember again, for EB3 workers is a multiple year process. So that is a little bit of relief to employers. Let's spend a little time talking about the lucky ones. Whenever possible, we always want to review the position in question as well as the foreign national's credentials to see if we have a route that is exempt from the very onerous PERM labor certification process where the employer has to test the U.S. job market. In the exempt categories, an employer gets to skip the Department of Labor and go straight to the second stage of the green card process known as the immigrant petition. And this most commonly is the I-140 immigrant petition. With special immigrant workers, it is the I-360. And then with the immigrant investors, our $1 million or $500,000 investors, it's an I-526. Now for the EB1 category, they go right to the I-140 petition. Some of the requirements of the I-140, with any I-140, the employer must prove its ability to pay the offered salary to the foreign national. Ability to pay. And how does the USCIS determine whether an employer has the ability to pay? It's not a very logical way of determining this. What they look at primarily is a net income test. They will look at the company's financials and see, after all expenses, including wages to employees, is that net income figure 0 or above? And if it is, then typically the USCIS will conclude the employer has the ability to pay. Not a very logical test, because no employers pay their employees one time at the end of the year. They pay as they go along. So it might make more sense to look at a cash flow analysis, but the USCIS hasn't quite gotten there yet. An alternative test to the net income test is the net current assets test. So if I'm working with an employer client and I see that we have issues with the net income, I will work very closely with that client as well as with the accountant or tax preparer to see whether we have any room to work with on the net current assets. And essentially what that test is if you have current assets and you subtract only current liabilities that are coming due within the next 12 months, and you come up with a net current assets figure that is at least equal to or greater than the offered salary to the foreign national, you meet the test. The third alternative test for the USCIS's ability to pay issue is the actual payment test. And this comes into play if the foreign national has already been working for the employer, for instance on H-1B status or some other visa status. So if the employer's W-2s for that particular foreign national employee, if the employee is already working for the employer, meets the offered salary as listed on the I-140 petition, we can prove that the employer meets the actual payment test. Another option for employers that have 100 employees or more is to simply provide a letter from the chief financial officer that verifies the number of employees being 100 or more within the organization. And this will also satisfy the USCIS's requirement on ability to pay. So with every I-140 petition, whether it's the EB1 category, the EB2 category, the EB3 through EB5, you need to show ability to pay. You also have to show the foreign national is qualified for the position. So whatever minimum requirements are stated in the I-140 or the immigrant petition as minimally required to perform that job, you need to show the foreign national possesses those requirements through educational certificates, letters from prior employers, what have you. The final stage in an employment-based green card process, whether it's a PERM labor certification-based process or a labor cert exempt process, as just discussed, is known as the I-485 adjustment of status for foreign nationals that are present in the United States and eligible for adjustment, or, in the alternative, immigrant visa processing for a foreign national that is outside the United States or is otherwise not eligible for adjustment of status within the U.S. This is the final stage in an employment-based green card case. And unfortunately, one cannot file this final stage unless the government has made available one of those green cards. Remember the limitations that the Congress had set on the 5 employment-based categories that we discussed earlier. The government must say that there is a green card available for your particular category. It can't be backlogged. And if it's available, then you can file this final stage. And the focus at the last stage shifts from the employer to the foreign national. And really the focus is on whether the foreign national is admissible to the United States. And there are various grounds of admissibility. They fall typically within the areas of criminal grounds of inadmissibility, security grounds, health-related grounds. There are certain factors that can make an individual inadmissible to the United States despite meeting all of the requirements in the prior 2 stages, or in the prior first stage if it's a labor cert exempt case. This final stage is also critical for dependents of the principal alien because it is the first time that most dependents are eligible to file for employment authorization, and oftentimes the first time to be able to obtain a Social Security card because they weren't able to receive the SSN until they obtained employment authorization. So it's a very critical stage, and those dependents are typically been very, very patient, some of them waiting multiple years to get to this stage. So that's it for today on employment-based immigration and obtaining green cards through employment. I'm Susan Im of ImLaw. For more information, visit imlaw.biz.